there's all these stories about, guys over in Macedonia who are running these fake news sites.
Number 24 is content farms in Macedonia.
Бидејќи ако се направи грешка, таа ќе биде кобна. Нема враќање назад.
So Europe need to remain more sexy lady in the world. Ajde, majkata!
Господа ја чува Македонија и низините граѓани.
One of the many presidents of the European Union, a man who most people have never heard of, passes away unexpectedly, not from COVID. David Sassoli, president of the EU Parliament and a, quote, socialist, unquote, as the Associated Press noted, passed away on January 11. Many tributes poured in, claiming he was a good, decent, and honest man. We are certain that he was, and our condolences to his family and friends for their loss. But the question still remains, do these sovereign, individual nation-states in Europe want socialists running their soon-to-be United States of Europe? Do Macedonians want socialists running the EU or Macedonia? Macedonia might soon have a, quote, new, unquote, government, still full of socialists, and they are all claiming that they can talk and reason with the new government in Bulgaria and their new Prime Minister, Kirill Petkov, who everybody keeps noting is a Harvard graduate. Though the Macedonian content farmers are reminded of a quote by one of the founders of the modern-day conservative movement in America, William F. Buckley, when he quipped, not unreasonably, "I would rather be governed by the first 2,000 people in the phone directory than by the Harvard University faculty." And Nikola Dimitrov, architect of Macedonia's forced name and identity change, comes out swinging at his own government. On Wednesday, January 12, Dimitrov held a press conference in which he said that A, international friends wanted to see him as Prime Minister of Macedonia, B, he was offered his old post of Macedonian ambassador to the U.S., and C, he accused the current foreign minister, Bujar Osmani, and others of preparing to cave in to all of Bulgaria's demands. We'll discuss all of this and more in this episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. I'm Jason Miko, coming to you from the foot of the Catalina Mountains in Oro Valley, Arizona.
And this is Cvetin and Jason in Skopje, Macedonia.
How you doing, Cvetin?
Good. A bit tired. It's been a long day, a long week, a long year.
Already, and it's a long year, and it's only the let's see, what is today? The January 13.
Oh,
we are recording.
That's soon.
Yeah, January 13 of the new year, 2022. I don't think we've recorded a podcast in this year yet, so.
Oh yeah, I think not.
Did we? I don't know. Well, Happy New Year to you, buddy.
Yeah, you too, buddy, and to all our listeners, and Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Both Catholic and Orthodox.
Catholic. Forget the Protestants. So this is episode number 131, first podcast of the new year. And new year, new government, right? No, not really.
Almost.
It's new. Put the new in scare quotes there. So Macedonia should have a new government next week, I believe. Kovachevsky is putting his quote-unquote ducks in a row and lining up all of his new ministers and whatnot. Most of the old ministers of Zoran Zaev will be gone. And let's start with Nikola Dimitrov, who is not making friends with anybody these days. I mean, here he was. So he, quick sketch for our listeners who may have forgotten. Dimitrov was nominally Vomero way back when. Career foreign policy, quote unquote expert. Worked with Boris Tarakovsky and others. Ambassador to Washington D.C. Foreign minister. Now he's the EU minister for muckety muck or whatever. And the architect, frankly, of the Macedonia's forced name and identity change. And now he comes out, lambasting the government, lambasting Bujar Osmani, the Dewey foreign minister, and of course then the government's swinging back at him as well. So he is. I don't know what exactly he's doing. Can you enlighten us at all?
Oh yeah, this was great. This is the first bust up of the post-Zaev era. So we were discussing previously, it's a very weird situation, how very little, let's say, friction, very little infighting is there after such a monumental event. Zaev is leaving, a bunch of his top people were left the government, left the party actually. Shekirinska is out of the party, so this is all monumental change in the country, and he's appointing a virtual nobody as the next prime minister in the face of Dimitar Kovacevsky, and everybody is acting like this is just nothing, like a routine change of the guard, nothing is changing, and we all know that something major is apparently going to happen, given that how abruptly Zaev left, and but there was almost nothing. So there was one fight with Petre Shulegov, the former mayor of Skopje. He was not given the transportation ministry department he asked, so he apparently spoke out against Zaev's. Several of Zaev cronies which are being kept in the government, like Oliver Spasovsky and Lyubcho Nikolovsky, nothing major. I mean, he does not have such a big following to cause division in the party, so that was it. Until yesterday, when Dimitrov came out, and Dimitrov also is not going to receive a position in the next government. He was Deputy Prime Minister for EU integration, which is completely redundant post by now for the lack of EU integration. And he not only he did not accuse the government of incompetence or I don't know corruption, even though this would all be all well and good. He accused them, especially Foreign Minister Bujar Osmani, who is an Albanian, and we all know how Albanians do not care that much about Macedonian national identity, and were always pushing us to accept demands from Greece and Bulgaria. So Dimitrov said this foreign minister, by implying the coming government of Kovacevsky, they're preparing to accept something horrible on the dispute with Bulgaria, something that will undermine our national identity. This is going to hurt us. This is going to be very harmful to us. We cannot. He spoke in very, very dire tones. He was very, sounded very concerned, and it was a very open message to the public. Everything that we've been talking about for so long, that the Zaev government is undermining Macedonia, undermining Macedonian national identity, and whatnot. Dimitrov practically confirmed that yes, in fact, we are doing just that, precisely what VMRO has been warning about, and every sane thinking person in Macedonia. The treaty with Bulgaria will undermine our language and our national identity as separate from the Bulgarian, and will rewrite our history. And to that we say, well, where have you been for so long? He was literally the person who signed the Prespa Treaty. He was assuring us that we have to accept Greek demands so that we can advance toward the European Union and NATO, that it's they're in the EU, we are out, they can dictate the terms, we have to abide by them. Now we have exactly the same thing with Bulgaria. They have a list of demands largely inspired by the concessions Dimitrov gave to the Greeks, Dimitrov and Zaev, of course. And now he says, no, now this is too much, we cannot accept this, even at the price if, he just said something like, let's not focus on a date, if it's June or January or whenever. Practically he said, let's freeze the dispute and, wait for the international community to maybe pressure Bulgaria in the future. And he warned us, be careful, these Albanians are working behind your back. So it's a very momentous, it's a very heavy statement, it's a very interesting development in our politics.
It's weird. It's almost like he woke up and realized that the damage that he has done,
Yep.
And the damage that very much will be done if everybody else doesn't wake up. It's just odd. I can't figure it out. It's kind of like I don't know. It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers had him for all these past few years, and they've given him back his old body or something. It's just weird. Grubi, Artan Grubi, who is an actual son of a bitch, and don't bleep that. Is you're right. He's Ali Ahmeti's lickspittle lapdog, and does his bidding, and actually. I think we've joked in the past that he was the one that actually ran the country for a while. as I was quickly going down the toilet. You're right. He doesn't care about he and the leadership, I should say, of at least Dewey certainly don't care about the ethnic identity of Macedonians. Yeah. But again, it was Dimitrov though who gave away not only the name but also the identity. I mean, I have maintained a list for almost 3 years now. Every week, I find just in my daily perusings of the news of instances where major media outlets, whether it's CNN or the Associated Press or Deutsche Welle or others, call Macedonians North Macedonians, and that's just in the English language. I don't know about the other languages. I know that in German, you fuse the words together, so you can't possibly say anything other than a North Macedonian, quote unquote. And this is something that is very difficult to combat. And then of course you have the other side where you've got, for instance, Kate on Kale, the American ambassador, and the State Department, who I've seen the State Department from time to time use the term North Macedonian, but Kate will go out of her way not to say anything. She'll say the people of your country, or going way back to even when it was the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, and I remember Chris Hill, who was the first U.S. ambassador to Macedonia. He would say, when he first got there, he would say, "Your beautiful country, this beautiful country." And to his credit, back then he finally got fed up with it, and he's got a whole section in his book on it. And he said, "Screw it, I'm just going to say Macedonia, Macedonian," and he took heat for that, but he did the right thing. And so, but now you've got the opposite end where we've come full circle, where it's either North Macedonian or your beautiful country. And Dimitrov is to blame for that, and he won't take ownership of that for whatever reason. Good that he's coming in and warning about what the quote unquote new government is going to try and do. I just don't see. I see there's an open letter here on group of activists. So from a lot of them from leaders of the Colored Revolution that have come out and said they're denouncing this. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this is even funnier than Dimitrov. So, but probably connected. So Shukerinsky is out, Dimitrov is out, and now these guys. It's possible that they're planning something, and Dimitrov even hinted at this yesterday. Some kind of a movement that would practically be standing some kind of opposition to SDSM, to Kovachevsky, if they're forced to accept something really horrific with Bulgaria in the coming period, and say, okay, let's burn Kovachevsky and we take over a group of unsullied politicians who actually warned everybody about this betrayal that has to be done, but okay, we'll warn you about it after it's done. So I have an impression that this is the direction in which they're going. So there is a letter, very stern, like we have no right to give up on our history if there is no accession talks with the EU. If Bulgaria blocks us over this, fine. This is the message of the letter. We cannot abandon our anti-fascist struggle. We cannot abandon what we teach our children about, Bulgarian World War II. Macedonia is a country with a heritage, with a long history. We can't. It sounds like something Vimero would say and say when resisting the Greek pressure. And this is signed by Vladimir Milchin, who was the leader of the Colored Revolution, long-standing Soros Foundation manager in Macedonia, who practically, funded all these NGOs who were protesting to bring Gruevski down, install Zaev, and accept all the Greek demands. It includes people who were foot soldiers in these protests. One particularly obnoxious actress who was shouting, "We need to hang all the Vimera people for this." Now they want to defend Macedonia from the consequences of their actions. It includes Girovsky, who had pretty much the same path like Milchin. It includes that intelligence officer Dinevsky, so like one of the worst, most despicable UDBA secret service people in Macedonia, manipulators. A few okay people like Ivica Bucevsky and Žitas Daskalovsky, but it's mostly people from the left who supported the colored revolution. Katica Chulavkova is one. And now they say, oh wow, look what look. Then they do not apologize for their past actions. At least one paragraph or one sentence that, okay, we done messed up here. Let's fix this, with some acknowledgement of their actions. They say no, it was good. Practically, what the betrayal to Greece was fine, but now another betrayal to Bulgaria, this will be too much. Completely unprincipled. Statement, and I sense that some of these people will tomorrow be some kind of like a wing or a faction revolving around this DSM, waiting for Kovacevsky to slip up and then try to infiltrate themselves in the party. What's interesting is that some people from Vimera noted that 3 people who led the lists for SDSM at the 2020 elections, so there are 6 districts, and the heads of the lists included Shekerinska, Dimitrov, and in the Tetovo region it included Bidal Kasami from Besa. 3 of the 6 leaders of the lists are now openly opposed to what the party is doing, or at least removed in the case of Shekerinska. So much for legitimacy for the party.
Exactly, yeah. By the way, so I see that Kovacevsky is named as cabinet, but I didn't see anything about the foreign minister. Is Bujar Osmani going to stay as foreign minister?
Yes.
Okay.
Almost all from Dui will remain.
Oh, yeah, of course, yes. So, and how many, in the new government, how many Dui members are there? I thought I counted 6.
There is 6 from Dui, 3 from the Alternative Party, and if we add the fact that there is like an Albanian, one Albanian from SDSM, the deputy economy minister, what's his name, Bitici. We are, literally getting to the point that we have almost even number of, and Maricic is a Serb, so yeah, we are about an even number of Serbs and of Macedonians and Albanians in the government.
I thought Maricic was a chipmunk. He looks like one.
He sure looks like one.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the Albanians, I did notice that Ilir Meta, the president of Albania, met with the new mayor of Tetovo, Kasami. And I thought it was interesting. One of our friends pointed this out on the Twitters, so I had to jump in on it, that on the table there is a flag of the Republic of Albania. Meta's wearing an Albanian lapel pin. Kasami is not wearing any lapel pin. There is no Macedonian flag. He is an elected official of Macedonia, so that's considered a bilateral meeting. There should have been a Macedonian flag. It sends, the optics are all wrong. It sends a signal that perhaps the president of Albania is in favor of a greater Albania. I'm not, I don't know if those are intentions or not, but it sure looks like it.
Yes, definitely.
And
there are interesting things happening there as well. The U.S. embassy is openly managing the opposition, so they're sour on the president, but also on they're trying to keep the weak and ineffective opposition leader in place and stop the appointment of the return of Sali Berisha to the opposition, even though much of the opposition party has turned against the current leader and supports Berisha. So it's they're in a state of flux at the moment, and it's an interesting development. People can observe in live how the U.S. embassy is deciding who gets to be in the government, who gets to be in the opposition.
Yeah, I noticed that. Actually, I'm going through my Twitter feed right now, looking. The U.S. ambassador had to tweet something out, a clarification of Gabriel Escobar's remarks, And I thought, when the U.S. ambassador to any country has to wade in and explain things, defend somebody's statement, spin something, that's just not. Here it is. The ambassador Yuri Kim, the U.S. ambassador to Tirana, I'll say, since they call our ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to Skopje. She says, tired of spin doctors? And she has spin doctors in quote. Judge for yourself. Here's what Deputy Assistant Secretary Escobar actually said. He also discussed regional economic integration, blah, 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 blah. So that kind of struck me, that she was actually putting out a tweet trying to clarify or defend. Ambassadors don't do that. When a U.S. ambassador has to make a statement like that, it means that they've lost the argument. The point of being a United States ambassador is to number one, never apologize. Number two, never acknowledge that that anything is wrong with your side. And number three, crush whoever disagrees with you, which apparently is what the U.S. embassy in Tirana is doing.
Apparently some Albanian outlet was not clear enough on the fact that Escobar or the U.S. government tells you that Sali Berisha should not be leader of the opposition. We want Lulzim Basha, and that's our decision. So apparently, the embassy wanted to double emphasize this, and we're close to this situation. It's quite possible that Dimitrov, now that he is a free agent, instead of forming a movement that would be taking over SDSM, he could quite easily join an attempt to take over Vumerod. There have been bunches of such attempts done on behalf of Zaev, and using Myalkov, using Nikola Todorov. Myalkov is now out of prison, so he could, this this movement of newly awoken patriots in Macedonia could actually try to infiltrate the right, not the left. So this could be, again, if it happens, this would be obviously managed. As you said, Dimitrov told everybody that my international friends wanted me to be prime minister. So whichever party would be, hijacked to accomplish this as a vehicle, I think he would be fine with either party.
Interesting. You bring up a good point. And I mentioned that in the monologue that as he said, his international friends wanted him to be prime minister, and he's referring to, I think, this current period, that they didn't want Kovacevsky, they wanted him, which would say that if that were to be true, then that would mean their powers are actually limited, that they can't actually do that. I don't know. I have to think about that some more.
Maybe, it indicates that Kovacevsky will be a passing, placeholder. No, don't bother to even remember his name or his face. That once he maybe signs something with Bulgaria, or if things go in the opposite direction, loses a soon-to-be declared general election to Vumerod, that then he will be removed and forgotten, and then SDSM will have to sort out who they are and who they want running the party. But it's very possible that an attempt will be made on for a deal with Bulgaria, with the Harvard guy in Harvard. And Kovacevsky is also telling everybody that he was Harvard educated, even though he attended, I guess, some online course for a few months.
Pathetic.
And really embarrassing. So they'll probably make an attempt, maybe even sign something, and then he'll be removed due to national outburst, and either Zaev's faction tries to take over the party, or Crvenkovsky's faction. We'll see.
Yeah. Of course, the internationals, when we say the internationals, we mean the West. We mean the U.S., the State Department, the European Union, and NATO primarily, and those that are within those organizations don't care, would like to see Macedonia give up its identity, the identity and history and heritage that it has left, and sign an agreement with Bulgaria, and move into the the EU. That's what they want. Because they don't care about Macedonia at the end of the day. That's a fact. They literally don't care. When you've got socialists running the European Union trying to make it into the United States of Europe, frankly, nobody's identity is important to them. They're trying to. They are attempting to make the new European man and the new European woman, and all identities must be subservient or dissolved in that process. And this is what Hungary is going through, right? Well, all countries are, but those that try and defend tradition, sovereignty of the nation state, their own culture and heritage, their identity, their religious values and beliefs, those that try to defend those will be attacked by the very rulers, those who run the European Union, the State Department, and NATO. That's just the way it is. It's as we move towards Fukuyama's end of history and the last man. It ain't liberal democracy, quote unquote, or Jeffersonian democracy, as he posited. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Bulgaria, because Kirill Petkov was supposed to be there next week, but he's come down with a bout of the Rona, I believe. So he's in quarantine or whatever.
The funny part is they all caught they were exposed while holding a National Security Council meeting on Macedonia. First of all, it's ugly to hold this thing on a neighboring country. There is really no security element to the crisis, and then the Speaker of Parliament apparently had the bug. But he was going to cancel the meeting, but now he says no, it's too important. He will still come, and it's a milder form of the bug. So
will he be wearing a hazmat suit?
Yeah.
All right. So Kirill's still coming over there next week.
Yeah, that's
okay. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Now he's, of course, Rumen Radev, the president of Bulgaria, is the hardliner who said, no, here are red lines, and doesn't matter what Kirill Petkov says, and of course Petkov's partners, what's his name, Trifonov.
Slavy Trifonov.
Yeah, the washed up actor or musician or whatever he is, who I don't know if we covered this in the last podcast or not. He actually was given an interview, and he said the Macedonians or something, and then he corrected himself. He said, "Sorry, the North Macedonians." He went out of his way to insult Macedonians. So he too is a son of a bitch. So his party has, Kirill Petkov isn't. They've got other coalition partners that are more hardline, I guess is the right word to say. So. But I do have to go back to the Haaaaaarvard thing and the Buckley quote. I would rather be governed by the first 2,000 people in the telephone directory than by the Harvard University faculty. Meaning that the average person probably has more wisdom than what Harvard turns out in terms of its graduates. And of course, the funniest thing is that Buckley was a Yale man.
Famously.
His first book, I think it was 1951, God, Man at Yale.
God and Man at Yale.
And of course, the point of the book was how the educational institutions back then, 70 years ago, were slipping away from teaching, the basics, and teaching people how to think, and teaching about reason, and also teaching about virtue and things like that, and how they're just totally moved away from that. If they were doing that 7 years ago, they're far gone now. So I wouldn't put
he really called that.
Yeah, I wouldn't put any credibility in the fact that Kirill Petkov graduated from Harvard. So
yes, absolutely. But there was a very interesting development in what Trifonov said. Actually, it's a deal which we could all get behind. Practically, he said, okay, we want the EU and the US want something from us, that we allow the North Macedonians to join the EU. Well, we want something from them, and that is that the US lifts its visa regime for Bulgaria, which is a major, EU NATO member state, but the US still maintains a visa regime. The same dispute like we would have, the same issue like with Poland, or I don't know, with Romania, how far along they are. and then that the EU accepts Bulgaria in the Schengen zone, so the last remaining obstructions to having Bulgarians work and live and travel through the EU, and I think also the Eurozone, but that's okay. I think that's going to happen anyway. So he's offering a quid pro quo, which apparently they've been offering for a while now, but he said it out loud, and everybody reacted, and to Trifonov, everybody in his coalition, not but saying by saying it's wrong. They said not that loud, That's the quiet part. You said the quiet part out loud. So it's actually a fine development for, if Bulgaria gets this and is able to remove Zaev from our back by vetoing us, listen, that's great. That's going to work out beautifully for everybody involved.
All right. Oh, by the way, are you freezing there? I know in our pre-podcast back and forth, we talked about the issues, and of course we mentioned the energy crisis there, which I haven't followed too much because, I live in southern Arizona. Sorry, but I know that energy prices are going up. The amount of energy available has been reduced. People are cold. What's happening? Are you cold?
Well, we have. I have a blanket and a sweater. Yes.
Oh dear! You have to wander around your house in a blanket and a sweater.
Yes. Yes. Well, we discussed the energy crisis a number of times before practically the Zaev guys all but stopped digging for coal for both ideological and corruption issues reasons, and incompetence. Let's not forget that part. And electricity is up about 15%. And then Skopje has about 60,000 units in the center of the city which use central heating with warm water heated by natural gas. We cannot set the quantity, so we have to pay according to the size of our apartments. And this price was hiked by about 15% because natural gas is so much more expensive. But this is not enough to offset the increase of the gas. So the company says, listen, thank you for the price increase, but we're still not making ends meet. So they're reducing the deliveries of warm water to the apartments, and they cite a clause in the law that says we are only forced to keep your apartments at 20 degrees centigrade, and that's it. So it's a huge, another blow to both living standards and quality of life. The main heating company was recently bought by Chief Liganets, a businessman who is very close to Zaev. His son is famously dating Vice Zaev's daughter, or was until recently, Instagramming, driving a Lamborghini through Monaco together, or skiing in Val d'Isère, or going to Bora Bora and places like that. So he's being protected by the government in what's he doing. And these December trying to blame VMRO for this because the mayor of Skopje should somehow have intervened, even though she's been in office for a few months. And the price of gas is so high because Zaev kept expelling Russian diplomats. He's preparing to send troops to Latvia or Lithuania or something. We refused to be part of the South Stream pipeline, which would have allowed us to dictate the prices. He wouldn't even purchase Russian vaccines at a time when we had no vaccines. So we kept going against them, and now Russia says, okay, there is one price for Serbia, another much worse price for Bulgaria, and another far, far worse price for this little pipsqueak country who keeps trying to insult us, to go out of its way to insult us, the latest NATO member. And yeah, it's really bad here.
The latest and final NATO member, actually. Ooh.
Hopefully, yes.
Ooh. You said 20 degrees Celsius?
Yeah.
That's 68 Fahrenheit. That's fine. Come on, man. I keep my house at 67.
We are welcome to spend more of our own money for to heat our apartments with the now even more expensive electricity. So yeah, that's
Yeah, well, actually,
that's how it works.
I know. So, yeah, and this is actually kind of a quick aside. I'm assuming most listeners know when you talked about heating the hot water that runs through the radiator pipes, and that's how you heat the homes. That is not something we have here out in the West. That is you find that in the east of the United States and the north and things like that. But out here, we don't have that. Now I know a lot of people there use the wall-mounted air conditioners that also function as heaters, but that's really
Yeah.
expensive. And then there's the pellets, which has become a big thing, I think, in Macedonia
Yeah.
over the past many winters, of using, I guess it's basically wood chips compressed into small pellets that then
Yep.
burn, but that is also used to heat the water, correct? That goes to the radiators.
Yes, you can do that in an individual heating system, but that's messy. That's something you have to do. You have to maintain it every day, and it's dirty and it's cumbersome. The elegant solutions are either electricity or, if you're in downtown Skopje, the central warm water heating system, and both prices have gone way up, and there was a drive to get rural households to abandon, to give to their municipality or to the government their wood burning stove in exchange for a voucher so they can buy an inverter air conditioner that runs on electricity. And those people who took this offer, they were told it will be cleaner for the environment. You won't suffocate in winter, and much less messy. You don't have to put a fire on every day, and you just press a button. And those people are now kicking themselves because now they have to pay 15-20% more higher electricity bill because Zaev ran the energy system into the ground, literally.
Yeah, well, that kind of brings us back to something I wanted to mention, and we talked a little bit about this just before we hit the record button, and that is, so the Zaev government. Let's look at the Zaev government as a example of generally of all leftist governments and leftists in general, progressives, that they're focused on these big existential issues, climate. What is it that Greta says? We have 12 years or 10 years, or maybe it's 10 minutes now to save the planet. Otherwise, we're all going to die. The climate change issue. And so they focus on that. They focus on trying to eliminate poverty, the really big picture things, instead of doing basic things that the citizens want and need, like heating homes and managing the economy so that you don't have quote unquote transitory inflation, which ain't, and cleaning the roads. You had awful snowstorms there in Macedonia, and I know the snowplows haven't been out for whatever reason because of the incompetence of the government. Plus, they're trying to fight climate change. This is something that Sassoli said in his David Sassoli, the recently passed away, one of the presidents of the European Union, said in his Christmas message. He says, quote, "We finally realize after years of cruel inflexibility that inequality can no longer be tolerated or accepted, that an uncertain life is a cruel one, that poverty should not be hidden but rather tackled and wiped out." Well, those are nice words, but inequality, I want to be a 7-foot tall black man in the NBA. That's not going to happen. Inequality is a part of life. Poverty is a part of life. Jesus said, "The poor you will always have with you."
Yeah.
But David was a socialist, and socialists believe this, that you can wipe poverty out. You can get rid of inequality, and they're chasing after these things that aren't possible, and they're using the power of the state and the taxpayers' money to do these things, which is, and they're using force to try and do it, and it's wrong. And they should be heating homes and cleaning the snow off the streets. It's just, and he ends this Christmas message with a time. He says, "Christmas is the time when hope is born. Here's to us and here's to hope." Actually, no, Christmas is the time when Christ was born. Now, you could argue that Christ is hope, obviously, but I don't think that was his message. I think he was one of these lapsed Catholics that really didn't believe in. He thought they were old fairy tales, and he embraced, instead of embracing the true message and spirit of Christmas and his Catholic faith that he was probably raised in as a good Italian, he embraced this false hope of what socialism promises but can never deliver, and does so through the power of the state and through the power of the purse by raping the taxpayers. Ooh, that's a sufficiently morose note to end on.
Yes.
Crushing morosity, as John Fedorad says in the commentary podcast.
Yes. I mean, they're trying to come up with a secular religion. They're trying to, with all the pageantry and imagery, and now that seeing that this has failed, they're moving toward more and more totalitarianism and ruling by decree and by a state of permanent crisis. So, they're really showing their hand. They're tipping their hand here.
Yeah, this is actually, I've got to get on my new column. That's what I wanted to write about this week, is the worshiping the false idol of democracy. You see that big time here right now with the Biden administration talking about how they're pushing the voting rights issue. And I know we're going a little bit off from Macedonia, but I'll tie this back in. The Republicans are trying to limit your voting rights, and voting is the most sacred possible thing in our holy democracy. And of course, none of that's true. And the Washington Post, "Democracy dies in darkness." But it is the worship of the false idol of democracy, and this is the direction that quote unquote Western democracies are pushing. And this is the point that Ryszard Legutko, the Polish MEP, makes in his book Nieman and Democracy, that Soviet totalitarianism and Western liberal democracy, such that it is right now, are very similar in that they're both unidirectional. They brook no opposition, and they will stamp out anything that opposes them, especially religious belief, tradition, culture, etc. And that is exactly what we see going on in Macedonia today, with the Zaev government and with his new stooge about ready to take office there.
Yeah.
And the only thing to do is to keep fighting it.
Yeah. And, they're failing at so many fronts. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They're not even able to hide it. They're even positioning themselves, as we discussed at the start, who to better take advantage of the short-term memory of the public after the latest round of collapses and defeats, to say, well, listen, I was against this. What whoever is left holding the bag at the moment did. This is all they have now. They're just passing the buck and hoping that they'll be able to climb back on top at the next dealing of the cards. And it's really satisfactory in a sense to see how quickly it has fallen, and hopefully we draw a lesson from this and crush it once and for all, so it never happens again.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, that's a.
Well, this is a cheery.
Yeah, that's a cheery note. That's a good way to end this
close.
first podcast of 2022. We wait. I'd mentioned maybe we should
crush the left.
What's that?
Crush the left.
Crush the left. Ah, yes, absolutely. Crush the left. This is a for those who are maybe listening first time. This is a conservative podcast. Okay,
yes.
So
you've been warned.
Exactly. So all right, let's end it that way. Maybe we'll do our New Year's predictions in the next podcast, or maybe halfway through the year.
Yeah. Well, we predicted already defeat for the left.
There we go. All right, I like it. All right, Cvetin, good talking to you.
You too, buddy. Take care.